The Cultural Council's mission is to nurture, promote, and support a healthy, diverse, and inclusive cultural sector so that the arts and culture are a part of everyday life for everyone. We invite listeners to discover Florida's cultural capital online at palmbeachesculture.com. Hi, and welcome back to the Artie Gras podcast. I'm your host, Sarah LaPierre, local artist, and I'm here today with another local artist, an emerging artist. Kelvin Small III is with me. He's a visionary photographer and, has just a really unique take on his work, and I'm excited to talk about all the things that are just coming up for you. And yeah, we're going to get into it. So Kelvin, thank you for being here.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Definitely. We've already been chatting off camera a lot, so I really am excited about all the things we get to talk about. There might be some rabbit trails that we go down, but of course, I want to start with a little backstory, a little intro history for our viewers and listeners. Mm-hmm. So tell me why and how a $20 Fujifilm camera on OfferUp changed the directory of your life.
Yeah. I was trying to draw first, but I knew eventually I was like, I'm not going to stick to it. This is going to take a lot of time. And I was like, I always wanted to pick up a camera. And I went on OfferUp, let me see if there's any inexpensive cameras on here. Because at first I went to Best Buy and I saw the price tags. I'm like, I work a part-time job at a movie theater. I was like, there's no way. But yeah, I found this little Fujifilm, Fine Pics, I think it was called. Okay. And I messaged the person, I'll meet with you right now to come pick up this camera. It was at the Atlanta Skateway, what used to be the Atlanta Skateway. We met there. It was like a really sketchy transaction.
Good old OfferUp.
Yeah, no, because they pulled
We're
up
not going to get sponsored by them now.
Yeah, they pulled up a whole car deep. I'm just by myself. I'm like, okay. I hand them the money. They hand me the camera, and they just took off. And I was like, all right, cool. Let me try to go outside.
Now let's see if this camera actually works, right?
Yeah. And once I put that viewfinder in my eye, I just knew, okay, it's a wrap. I love this. I went out every single night and was taking photos.
That's awesome. So you got the camera, the OfferUp deal went through. It actually worked. You got super energized by this new vantage point of the world that suddenly you're having these things that you want to feature through the lens. You used to skateboard too, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that played a factor into the way that you that your creativity went down, like the things that you would photograph, the areas you would, try and find and highlight?
No, absolutely. Because skateboarding is really strange where once you learn how to do tricks, you look at the world completely different and you can't unsee it. So I could walk past a curb and a ledge and think of 10 different tricks I could do right there. And that's kind of how I trained myself with the camera.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that train of thought. I mean, skateboarders also have this, grit, right? I can't think of another word for it, that right. You are willing to put yourself through potential injury and risk to perfect a trick or a move. And right. You'll, like I said, the grit is there that you'll just keep trying or try different ways. So I can imagine that it really your creative brain lights up in a different way because of that.
No, definitely. Especially shooting on film, I always think all right, I might not get it this try, but I can keep going and try it this way, and it might come out the way I want it to be. It's kind of like skating in that way where it's 90% of the time you're not going to land a trick.
Yeah. So now, if we're using that same analogy, when you're, shooting on film, and I don't know, I took one film class in college and that was it. And I loved it, but that's where my knowledge stops. Is it the same percentage of photos that come out exactly the way that you were hoping? Is there a lot of surprises, or maybe that's different from when you just started versus the work that you're doing now?
Yeah, no, when I first started originally, I was like, okay, I don't even know if this is going to come out good, but that was the exciting part of it. And it took like a lot of experimentation and trial and error to get to the point where I'm at now, where I can go shoot a whole roll of film and know that I'm getting the right shots for each one, or even just experimenting with things where I'm like, okay, it might not have turned out the way I thought it would, but this is how it came out and I love it.
But there's a quality there that you're like, this is, there's something captured that was special that you like, this is what we were going for.
Exactly.
That's exciting. You brought in a piece with you today. Actually brought in two. We had space for one. So can you tell me a little bit about the work that's behind you and maybe what that series, was about?
Yeah. So, originally I was working on a still life series called Floral Therapy, because it's like kind of the story behind it is, when I was living in Los Angeles, California, I was scared to go outside of my camera. It was just absolutely insane where I was living at. Like, I saw my street in a documentary, knew I messed up instantly. And I was like, okay, I need to still take photos. Like, I need to find something to take photos of. So I lived right next to the Flower District. So I'd always go there and just take a bunch of still life photos. Like, some of them I still have. I just don't put it out there like that. And these photos, especially this one here, like I said, I was walking down the street and I saw a skull just laying on the ground. And I'm like, no, let me just try to get it and clean it up and repurpose it for this piece I'm thinking of. And once I put the flowers on, and like I used the iPhone light actually to get the lighting on it. Yeah, I instantly fell in love and kind of built like almost like a character from that photo around this project I'm working on currently called Fujifilm 3. And I was like, you know what? I want people to know when they see that skull and the flowers, know that there's probably danger lurking or something else around the corner.
Okay. I like it. Yeah. I mean, I like what you said too about you're finding the elements, you're working with what's around you and letting those kind of pieces be your inspiration sparks that drive you into this kind of, storytelling. Is that how most of your photography comes together? Like, are you're kind of picking up elements from your life that just happen to be around you, or are you going out in searching of something specific?
No, I pretty much, the way I like to think of it is like I live life, and whatever I choose to take photos of, somehow I unconsciously just, my camera tells me like, hey, this is what you need to do. Just follow this path. And I'm like, all right, let me just continue to go on with it. And it's kind of been like that since 2020, I believe.
Okay. That's awesome. I mean, that's, following your artistic gut instinct, right? It's just something tells you that this is the direction that you're shooting today. And that's where you follow it.
Yeah, that's very primal. I don't even know how to explain it. But
that's great. No, I mean, I think a lot of people maybe have had that and lost it, or it gets ignored or shut off. There's everybody's creative, I believe, truly, but definitely. Not everybody listens to that creative voice or that direction or whatever it is that's pulling you in a certain way, because they've, gotten scared of what other people might say, or there's there's a lot of fear, about being a professional creative, whether you're doing it full-time, part-time, or whatever, that there's a lot of unknown.
Right.
And so it can get hard to like listen to your instincts, listen to your creative gut, because there's so many external forces that are telling you, I don't know, is that safe? Is that right? Should you just do, the thing that you see everybody else doing on Instagram because we know it's popular? Like, yeah,
exactly.
Kudos to you for listening to that. I think it's a big deal that, you can follow that, whether it's you talking or your camera talking, I don't know. I want to know when photography became, more than just a hobby for you, or when you knew that you were going to pursue it further than you pursued drawing.
That had to be 2020, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, readily enough, obviously the whole world shut down, and I was working on like just some black and white portraits. I wanted it to be very ethereal and out in the nature, and I love to go in that direction. But as soon as everything shut down, I was like, okay, let me just try to go in a different direction. I'll just take photos around my house or in the neighborhood, away from people.
So were you in LA during that time?
No, I was still living in Palm Beach County. I was in Riviera Beach at that time.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I mean, because the access to things just dwindled, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And it was maybe like 8 months in, I had all these photos and I was like, no, I'd never put out a project before. Let me go ahead and try it out. So I ended up trying to write to every photo I've seen and make a narrative out of it. Again, it was like, I didn't know I was making a whole concept project. It's just my camera was like, hey, point it at this and I'll do it. And that ended up being my first project, Bliss Volume 1. I called it Madman's Theory. I just like those two words together.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, no, from there, the reception that it got, because it was a super, really personal project. I couldn't believe people liked it. I was like, oh, I thought only I was going to like this. I was just putting it out there because I was like, oh, here. But when I seen the reception, I'm like, okay, maybe I should keep going in this direction and try to make projects and actually build a career out of something I really like to do.
That's awesome that you, followed the direction and put it out there just because you wanted to. And then also that you had a response that was supportive and curious and encouraging, that you could say, okay, maybe there's strength behind this direction if I keep following it. So what was that first release like? Was that something that happened in person, online? Like, how did people see the work?
Oh yeah, it was online actually. Okay. Like the pandemic was still going on. And I had to quiet for 8 months on Instagram, didn't post nothing, wasn't around social media. And once I came back and just had a whole project to go on my website, people are like, wait, this is what you've been doing? And I'm like, yeah. Like the whole time I was like, I'm not trying to be on social media, seeing everything that was going on in the world at the time. It was really hard to see. So it's kind of like isolated myself in that way and put it out, and people just ended up really liking it. And so when they saw me in person after the pandemic was done, I had a bunch of questions and people were like, oh, you should put it in this magazine and so on and so forth. And I was just kind of taken back.
Yeah. So now you did mention earlier off camera, sometimes when you are on Instagram for your limited amount of time, that you've kind of got your algorithm to a point where you're, it's feeding you like open calls, right? Art calls, exhibit calls. Is that something that you regularly pursue and you're, putting applications out there with that series still, or other series of your work?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was a part of Artist Talk magazine through Instagram open calls, and it got me both into the magazine and on a billboard in Times Square, New York.
Nice.
And I couldn't believe it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I almost didn't want to go see it. My girlfriend had to drag me out to go see it.
You didn't want to go see it? You're on a billboard in Times Square and you're like, man, maybe not.
Yeah, no, I was like so terrified of big cities at a point. I was like, oh, no. I was like, let me stay in my little Palm Beach County
comfort
area.
Zone.
Yeah, no, all I know is Palm Beach County. Is kind of funny.
So did you get to go see it, or did you just see like a photo of it up there?
No, I went to go see it in person. I got dragged out to see it, but it was a great experience. And two of the people that were on the photos up there, they all went with me, and we just had a really great time.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I love that. I mean, that's a pretty good ad for being conscious about the way you're spending your time on social media, right? Because it can either be a pretty big drain or it can be a pretty big benefit if you're really, particular about the way that you're using it and engaging with it. And like you said, training your algorithm to feed you what's good for you, functional for you, adds value to your path as an artist. And clearly it's working. You're doing something right for sure. Okay. So I want to talk more about like your creative style, your inspirations. Your work definitely feels like has a very cinematic quality to it. Little dreamlike kind of. What kind of influences are shaping your style as a photographer?
Wow. A lot of David Lynch films. I'm a big David Lynch fan. First film I watched of his was, oh my goodness, Eraserhead. It's like the whole black and white film. And I remember watching it and being like, I don't know what this is about. Nor will he ever explain it. But it inspired me in a way where I was like, you know what, man, I can try to make something very like ominous and dreamlike and try that direction between David Lynch, big Kendrick Lamar fan, huge Kendrick Lamar fan. He has an album called To Pimp a Butterfly. I actually had the tattoo on my hand.
Wow.
It's like a whole jazz album, and this linear story throughout the whole thing where he just has a poem, and then for every song or so, the poem just gets longer and longer and longer until the end, where you find out he's reading that poem to Tupac. He got this audio from Tupac, like some guy in Germany apparently handed it to him. It was like a never before heard interview, and he just made it seem like they were having a conversation, and that just blew my mind. That's when I figured out, I'm like, oh, anything is really art.
Yeah. And is that what kind of like, was that maybe where the writing side of your creative process comes in, where, like you said, you know, with that first release you did online, you were sort of writing to go with each piece? And is that?
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm trying to think of one more person. Oh my goodness. So definitely photographer Lee Miller.
Okay.
She is a powerhouse. Like, she was a model on Vogue. Met this photographer, another surrealist photographer named Man Ray. He kind of taught her photography, and she went ahead and did many things with that, between her own self-portraits and doing surrealist photography to war photography, glam photography, and the whole nine. And I just thought she was an amazing powerhouse, and her story isn't told enough. So just want to put that out there. Like, Lee Miller is definitely one of my favorites.
Nice. Okay, definitely. I'm going to have to look her up. So I read, I think in another interview that I was reading, that you listen to a lot of jazz or some other, music when you're shooting or when you're prepping for a shoot. Is that something that you allow to kind of weave into your work and almost dictate the mood of what you're doing for that photo shoot?
Yeah, definitely. I it's kind of like a routine. Before each shoot, I know, I'm like, okay, this is kind of the mood I'm going for. So let me listen to this album on the drive there, or like while I wake up or something like that. Like last shoot I did, I want to say I listened to this artist. His name is Earl Sweatshirt. Very strange. Like, his name isn't really Earl. But he has an album called I Don't know if I could cuss on here.
Go for it.
But it's an album called I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside. And I was like, I always thought that was a very strange title. The album cover is very weird, but the music itself is honest. And it has so much depth to it. And I knew for this shoot, I wanted it to be honest and have that same level of depth. So I might listen to that before I go do a shoot. And yeah, no, music definitely plays a big part.
Sets up your mindset, whether it's just for you or for the people that you're participating with, collaborating with, I guess you could say, for a shoot, if you've got, models involved.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't always have the same exact routine when I step into my studio, but there's definitely some form of, I'm gonna set the tone of energy with what I'm listening to, so that I can, add to what I'm doing on the canvas. And kind of, it just helps you move differently through your work.
Right.
Whether that's like, I need big energy today and it needs to be really loud, or I'm ready to kind of go on a slower, following a different trail kind of pace. It's definitely an important part of the process though, right?
No, seriously.
Okay. So, I mentioned, to me, I think your work has a cinematic feel. That might be a phrase that you use as well to describe your style. Yeah. Is there a universe that you're building? Like, when you're working on series now, are you looking at a grand scheme that these things connect and collaborate and talk to each other? Or are you somebody who likes to say, have really individual definitive projects? This is this project. This is another totally different project. And they don't necessarily have anything to do with each other.
No, they all connect in like some strange way. Yeah. like Bliss Volume 1 kind of ends with the question, and my second project, Bliss Volume 2. That's the one I actually moved out to California to go finish up.
Okay.
That one takes right up where the other one left off. And yeah, no, I just like building worlds like that. I've been a Marvel geek my whole life. So like to know that that movie connects with that one. Yeah.
So you got the Kelvin, the KCU, maybe cinematic universe.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Like even right now, I just have like a list of projects that leads up to the finally third installment of Bliss. Cause I'm like, after that one, this is a wrap. I don't want to do it no more.
And now, is that what you're currently working on, the third installment, or is that off in the future? That's what you're working on now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I told myself, we're giving myself 5 years to work on that one.
Okay. What year are we in?
Oh, this is year one.
This is year one. Okay. Yeah. All right. We got a like 5 years ahead. I'm excited to see what's coming out of this. So I definitely want to talk about your emerging artist. Is it a program, right? The mentorship program that you're a part of. So through the Cultural Council for Palm Beach County, you awarded and won, and congratulations, because it's like a big deal.
No, thank you.
That you won this Emerging Artists Award and Mentorship. So you're in a program now, and it's going to provide both a specific mentor who's a photographer and then studio space. Is there anything else that you can tell me about that program? Like what you're getting into with that?
Yeah, so I attended a lot of different workshops that have been super helpful, like honestly, truly helpful. I told you I have a schedule, even though I do forget what day of the week it is still. But yeah, I have a schedule where I know, like, okay, today's the day I might only do writing, or today's the day I pick up the camera and I'm going out to shooting, or I have specific times where I go develop and all that. Okay,
so with this program, they're kind of encouraging you, like, both creatively and then from a business perspective, would you say?
Yes, definitely.
So there's a support structure for, like, you obviously are a very talented, creative person. You know how to do that aspect of it, but then it's going deeper, pushing you further, and supporting you and saying, hey, this is how you can function and like make a living as an artist.
Definitely.
That's awesome. That's super powerful. And you were telling me that the studio space that you're going to be in, which is going to be in August of this year, right?
Yes.
And that's going to be at the Norton Museum.
Right.
Which is super cool.
No.
That you're going to have studio space in this, like, world-class museum. And and like you said, your mentor, mention your mentor again.
Oh yes, Sonia Anches.
And she's going to be, with you in this space. You're setting up, I think you told me about, like, there's going to be a dark room space. So you'll be using it for, what do you think, shooting and developing? Like, what does that space build out look like to you, since we're still a few months out of you being there?
Right. Yeah, definitely having a space where I could both develop and shoot photos and everything, as well as having some work on the wall that shows the direction where this self-portrait project, like a kind of like a prelude to the Bliss, is going to go. As well as I have like this old school TV. I'm making this little video installation, so I'm going to put it off to the side somewhere.
Cool.
Where I can have that playing so people could just know what I do.
And now, is this a space that's going to be multi-artist? Is it just you in there? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I believe one artist might be either upstairs or downstairs. I'm not too sure which one we're going to take yet. But I said if they have any heavy material, let them go downstairs.
Oh, yeah.
I have a camera.
Good point.
Yeah, I have such light equipment.
Nice.
So, yeah, definitely. And I'm partnering up with a couple of the artists as well, and just taking studio portraits for them. Just like, cool. I'm really honored to be around them because they're doing amazing things as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be so exciting, right? To go from, I think you said you have a studio that you've used in your backyard, which is, pretty common for a lot of artists working from home or working from somewhere, kind of private,
right, to
being in this space that is really buzzing with like big creative energy.
Exactly.
And yeah, and just who knows what opportunities might come up because of that. And you're there for a whole month, right?
Yeah.
So now, is that going to be open to the public in any way? Like, could some people come visit your studio?
Yeah, definitely people can come visit the studio.
Okay.
I'm really excited about, because I've never had a studio visit. I told people before, like before I had the studio I have now, I was making everything in my bed. So yeah, it's really cool to jump from that to Norton Museum Studios.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been going to the Norton since I was in the second grade. So it's crazy.
Field trips first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the old setup.
Right. Yeah, man. Before the whole renovation. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
a totally different animal now.
I know.
I
So,
love it there. I mean, it's that, yeah, that's just wonderful. I get to attend some of the, openings. And if I can't make it to those, I go to the shows when I can, but there's just always something that feeds you there,
right.
like it's a great space. So that's going to be really exciting. I hope, August is going to be here quickly, but I'm sure you're like really eagerly awaiting.
Oh yeah, definitely. And plus the way this year's been going by so quickly, it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah. So is there anything that you're doing in preparation for yourself to like be ready to jump into that as soon as it's here?
Definitely. I actually was speaking with my mentor, Sonia, a couple days ago, and we were just walking around Del Rey, and I'm picking up props and learning some of the skills that she taught me. She's like, you just want to have a whole bunch of props there. You want to have yourself like a little still life, like shoot area. You can go ahead and shoot everything there. You can show them how you develop your film and everything. So I plan on doing a lot of that, kind of like not even having a thought of what the still life might be about, just kind of like freeform jazz it.
Sure.
Just go in and make something that evokes me at the moment and develop it.
Yeah. Yeah. And have those things at the ready so that when you jump in there, you can just get into it right away. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you can also say, okay, now I got some energy here. I can direct it towards the third installment. I can direct it towards that specific project.
Exactly. Yeah.
So is there going to be an opportunity for a show, for like an exhibit? I know you said you'd have some things hanging on the wall. Do you foresee being able to use that space as like hosting an opening of any kind? Or is it really more for you to work and develop?
I'd say a little bit of both, honestly. Okay. I would love people to come and see what I'm working on currently, especially because I'm in such a completely different mind space between the last project I had fully released, which is I think like 2 years ago, to where I'm at right now. So I think it'd be interesting to be like, hey, yeah, I'm shooting in black and white again. Here this is. And like a whole different level of skill sets and tools that I've never had. Like I've never had a studio light in my life. I was just using natural light. So now I have these things and a way more creative way to actually show you my photography in a surreal way. Like I'm making my own props by hand and stuff now. So
cool. Yeah. I mean, look out. You've got more materials, more,
right.
More ways to just express.
No, exactly. And again, my mentor taught me that. I'd brag about her all the time.
That's awesome.
No, like she's great.
So we've talked a little bit about the work that, you've done and that you're working towards. What do you think is some of your favorite feedback that you've gotten, like when you've done releases from your audience or from, from anybody who's viewed your work?
One thing I didn't even think was like a huge deal to me, but when someone mentioned it, I couldn't believe it, was the way I sequence photos, which in itself is a whole nother thing. Cause I mean, I heard book editors go through and they like try to rearrange things for people and stuff like that. So I'd never thought of sequencing as something where I was like, okay, yeah, let me put this one here because this can tie in with this. But the fact that someone mentioned that and it's something I pay attention to now, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's always, surprising, right? Kind of what other people see in your work, what they notice, that maybe it's instinctual to you. Maybe you didn't realize you were doing it, but somebody said, I see that you did this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like between that and some of the locations are the double exposures I choose to do. Like I love doing multiple exposures with film photography. It's just a technique I was trying to learn when I first picked up a camera to now where I've kind of mastered it, or in a way where like I can tell where this is going to end up in the frame, even if I drive 20 minutes away to go shoot the second frame.
Oh, wow. Okay. To somebody who doesn't know, explain double exposure to me.
Oh, yes. So say I'm on the first shot of film, I can take that first photo, still remain on that same shot, and go take another photo before I go to the next shot. Okay. So it could be 2 photos in one. I could do 3 or 4 if I want.
And doing that with film definitely sounds complicated because you're not necessarily able to, like, if you can't remember exactly where, what you just said you would, but if you can't remember exactly where you were trying to frame something, it's
like, it was just overlay kind of crazy.
Right. That's cool. I've definitely seen that style. I just, I don't know the lingo for it. So that's good. I'm learning something. Okay. All right. Well, we definitely got more to get through, but we're going to take just a quick little break and we're going to hear a word from our sponsors, the Cultural Council for Palm Beach County. We'll be right back.
Those dinner reservations and tea times will have to wait because there's an art-filled paradise beyond these beaches. A mecca of masterpieces, spectacular sights by day and night. A cultural capital that's calling your name. See so much more than you came for in the Palm Beaches.
So we're talking with Dr. Lori Rothman with TGH's Concierge Health. Doc, everybody's doing this now. Why is it so popular?
I think concierge medicine is popular now because there are fewer primary care doctors and there's an absolute shortage of primary care physicians. Concierge medicine is a membership practice where your doctor takes a limited number of patients, and this way you have more access to care and you can get seen when you need to.
So what are the benefits?
I think the greatest benefit is the personal relationship that you develop with your physician. Your doctor has time to spend with you, and when you need to be seen, your doctor's available. In addition, you'll have longer extended appointment times, and you'll have a 24/7 access. If you don't feel well on a Saturday night, you can call me.
And what should I look for if I'm looking for a new concierge physician?
I think same things you'd want to look for in any doctor. What are their credentials? Where did they go to school? Where did they do their training? And then how many years of experience do they have? Specifically for concierge medicine, you want to know how large is their patient panel because you really want to know that they're going to be able to provide the service that they're offering.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Doc. Thanks for being here. And that was your Medical Minute.
Okay, so I want to talk about some community and connection in this area. You told me you're from this area. We both have that in common.
Right.
So how do you think being a native of Palm Beach County or a native of South Florida has influenced your creative journey?
Oh man, it's the core of my being because especially where I grew up out in Westgate, I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like even explaining it to my partner, I'll tell her some stories and she's like, I've never seen or heard of anything like that in my life. So I can go to areas like Palm Beach and see all the gorgeous houses and the wealth that's over there. And then I can just simply go to Broadway or 45th Street and I see people that are struggling to find a meal. And finding the balance between both of those things, showing the beauty that's still over on 45th Street is just, we're struggling. Or sometimes in Palm Beach, showing that like it's beautiful out here, but it can also be kind of like eerie kind of. I think that's really important. And I think that's what I'm trying to document.
Yeah. The breadth of this area is definitely huge. Like as far as, the differences in income values, like it's all here. Everything's here. Obviously we're known for certain things like Palm Beach County in general, is whether it's known for the island or known for attractions, golf courses, beaches, but everything is here. There's so much history, depth, richness. It's all,
Exactly. And it's like being able to just coexist and be on both sides making me think like, oh wow, like no matter what part of Palm Beach County I'm in, I feel like I'm welcomed, which is like different for me. Yeah. Because again, I moved out west. I felt like I was not welcomed at all. It was a whole culture shock. So especially moving back and being able to appreciate what I'm around now instead of trying to run from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just embrace it in a completely different way now.
And seeing the, obviously the validity of all of those stories, right? That
Right.
not just select stories deserve to be told, that there's, like you said, beauty, in all of these places that can be featured, highlighted, shared, and, maybe make
Exactly.
a positive impact.
Exactly.
Or
Yeah.
at least incite some curiosity, ways of thinking that maybe opens another avenue for someone. You never know. Like you said, you have work that's gone overseas that, has been a part of exhibits in London. I think maybe we talked about this off camera, but that you never know how that's going to impact somebody, and what those stories that you attach to your photography, to the visuals, how they're going to reach somebody else. And that's so, so cool.
Yeah. Like, it's incredible to even think like someone out there in London saw a photo from West Palm Beach.
Yeah, right?
It's incredible to me.
It's amazing. Okay, so we're going to get into maybe a little bit of process. And I want to know, what were you hoping viewers discover when they look at your work?
Right now, I want them to notice little bits of symbolism in my work. I've been doing my research on the symbolist movement in art and taking key notes, like even with the skull, like memento mori, like stuff like that. I want people to really dissect it more than just kind of look at it and pass on, kind of like we do with Instagram, and everything's just like swipe up and it's easy content to digest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think of pieces like Heronomous Bosch's Garden of Earthly Delights.
Incredible. Love it.
And I love the fact that I can be kind of scatterbrained and look at each piece and be like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
like, this is incredible.
You're like, what is going on here? There's a frog eating a man that's being picked apart by an owl creature / child frog. Like, it's just, it's
Right.
insane. If if our viewers don't know this piece, definitely look it up. Heronomous Bosch's Garden of Earthly Delights is the piece, right?
Mhm.
It's the craziest surreal thing that you're going to see. It's
It
like
really
heaven
is.
and hell, and it's just beyond. But yeah, you could take one little frame of that painting and it's a whole story on its own,
Mhm.
and a lot of symbolism packed into one little area of
Right.
it.
Yeah, I think that's like probably one of my favorite pieces. And I was like, if I could try to get anything similar to that in photography, I would be more than excited. It doesn't have to be exactly like it, just get close.
I hear you. So now, you said earlier that you're making some of your props. What does that look like? Like, what are you making?
Yeah, right now I'm making this mask. It's like off a palm frond, I believe, but someone had broken into my car recently and like all the glass had shattered. And I looked at it, was upset for 5 minutes, and I was like, let me pick up this glass.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And
True artists, like, this is terrible. Somebody broke into my car, but wait, this kind of looks interesting. There's something here.
yeah, no, I thought of like 5 photos instantly I could take with it. And I was like, all right, let me go ahead and put this in a bag. Like last night I was working on it. It's hilarious. But between that and I found these 2 pieces of bark that almost look like wings. So I kind of just shaved off some of the bark and I put leaves on there. I'm going to put it in resin.
Okay.
And make it like so that I could put it on my back with the mask and the whole 9.
Cool.
Yeah.
So the series that you think you'll be working on then over the summer more is going to be about those self-portraits?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, and just finding all these types of little things where I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't know what this dream meant, but I can try to make this into something where I'm like, it could be a self-portrait representing this, or I can't wait.
I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what comes out of this. So, we've talked about Instagram in various ways already, but in this age of like endless scrolling, and like really saturated feeds with a lot of similar, themes popping up.
Right.
How do you choose to participate online in a way that stays authentic to your voice?
I would say Instagram stories is like always the best way for me to stay in touch with my audience, because it's either I'm posting other people's art or I'm posting something I've seen on the news, or I'm like, have anybody seen this? Have you talked about this at all?
Yeah, stories has a way of inciting more actual like conversations or more discussion or interest or just more, I guess, real kind of communication.
Exactly.
Than sometimes just it's then a post in a feed that, like you said, people are just maybe going to scroll or hit like or, you know, not really spend time with.
No, exactly. So like I like to talk to people through my Instagram stories and they might DM me and I'll just sit there and we'll chat back and forth. But whenever I do post, I don't really expect a whole lot at all, but I always like to do it just to be like, hey guys, I'm still making stuff. Like I just might not post it on here all the time, but I promise you I'm going outside.
yeah. Don't worry about me. I'm getting some sunshine.
I just know my photo won't beat a cat video. I promise.
Right. That's a fair expectation. We can't all be the cat video. Like we just can't. Okay, so that kind of ties into I wanted to touch on mental health, and obviously it's, you know, important for everybody, but it's a huge part of the creative process. How do you personally take care of your mental health when it comes to, you know, feeding creativity and making sure that you have the juice that you need?
Especially after I moved back from Los Angeles, I kind of learned this thing out there where it's like I will isolate myself and work on something for hours, but I can't really do that as much because I'm in a relationship now. So whenever I do get my time alone, I make sure like, okay, put the phone to the side, no YouTube or anything. Like let me lock in for about 4 hours and either write, make the prop, take a photo. And that is so calming to me because whenever I step outside, it seems like the whole world's going nuts. And I'm like, okay, this is a lot to take in. Like, again, just all that kind of reminds me of my time in downtown LA. So I'm like, all right, let me take a step back, be quiet. And it just helps me regulate all my thoughts.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a real power to removing distractions, removing noise. You know, there's like, it's a studio is like a sanctuary for artists, right? Where you have to, at some point, be able to table something. And we're not talking about ignoring it, right? We're not like sticking our head in the sand and just like that doesn't exist, because it does. Real life exists, fortunately or unfortunately. But yeah, when you have that dedicated time for yourself to know that like, I'm here in this moment working on my thing, nothing else is gonna touch that. Right.
It's just, let me just have this specific time to deal with maybe some thoughts I'm having, or even like I'm finally going to seek mental health advice now, but like dealing with PTSD that I dealt with out there in LA for the 1.5 years I was living out there. I'm like, okay, maybe I could just write about this. I talked about this with this person, or I want to say, even when I'm out shooting, it's the most calming thing I could possibly do. Like I don't have to think of nothing. The camera and I, like I said, we have an unspoken bond.
Yeah.
Where I don't have to say a word and it understands everything I mean.
You feel like you get in that kind of flow state.
Yeah.
Where once you sink into it, that's all that you're there for.
Right.
It's just that process, whatever that looks like at the time.
Exactly. Especially when I know I have only 12 shots on a roll of film.
Oh,
it's like,
man.
I have to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Oh, there's such a spoiled part of my head that's like, you have unlimited, limited to the amount of your storage, I guess, on a digital tool. But limited exposure.
Yeah, the one when I have 12 shots, I'm like, okay, I could take like 3 photos here and let me get on.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Do you think that having that specific limitation supports your creativity in a way?
Yeah, absolutely. It forces me to get really creative and pay attention to small little details like shadows and light, or the way like the texture is being lit up or backlit. Or even when I am working with people, I'm like, okay, you can pose this way, express this emotion. I love the fact that I can have those 12 shots and concentrate on that. And I really appreciate the fact that I don't have to see it afterwards. just leave it up to my imagination until I go develop it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a certain kind of like peace, do you think? That's like, it is what it is.
Yeah, definitely. Because if I see the photo immediately after, I'm my worst critic. I will not even like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even now, I might have like these photos are the first time I've shown them in a year.
Really?
I just had it for a year, and I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, it's here. And I'll show it when I show it.
That's kind of, there's a niceness to that though, right? You showed up, you did your part, you did your work, you aligned things in the way that you set out to as a creative. And then, at some point, obviously the film gets processed and maybe you begin to critique it or maybe you don't, but like, you did your job still.
Mm-hmm.
And like to not have to have that auto response of like, oh, let me look at the digital real quick and see if we want to do another 5 tries of this to tweak it even more or to change something or to second guess or to, whatever. That sounds like a good process. I like it.
It's really fun.
Okay. So, I always ask this question of every guest, which is if you had to name one place or event or venue or like a piece of public art that you think anybody living or visiting Palm Beach County should experience, what would that be?
Wow, that's a heavy question. Oh my goodness. Wow. I'm always going to recommend and go to the Norton, but there is an exhibition right now where they have a bunch of jewelry made by different artists and some of their pieces up there. So it's like Picasso.
I saw this exhibit.
Yeah.
It is so much more than I thought it was going to be, but you tell us your version of it.
Yeah, no, it's incredible because Man Ray, again, I study surrealism. I love it. Man Ray is a big part of that. And to see his work in person, I'm like, oh, this is actually really cool. And that's what got me into like trying to make my own props further too, is that exhibition. So please, anybody, if you're visiting Palm Beach County or you just haven't been to the Norton in a while and you haven't seen it, please go see it.
It's a good one. Yeah, it really is something special. And you, honestly, even the way that they created the exhibit, you feel like you're walking into a jewelry box, which is super cool and different. And then, you do see all these big names, all these really recognizable artists, Picasso, Keith Haring, like there's just a ton of them that they're showing some of their more traditionally known mediums, like their paintings or drawings or photography. Mm-hmm. And then they're showing the jewelry that they happen to make, which I didn't know so many of these artists, of course, why I didn't know, but I could have assumed because myself as an artist, I've always got my hands in some other medium, even if it's not my main medium that I like exhibit and sell and like live off of. Mm-hmm. I've created, woodworking and clay and jewelry and photography and like crochet and all these different things, all these different mediums to play with as an artist, because why wouldn't you if you have the possibility?
No, exactly.
So it was really cool to see all of these other artists were, doing the same thing. And most of the case, it's not like they ever sold this jewelry. Like they just created it because they created it. And maybe it got gifted to somebody. Maybe it was created for like a lover, or it was created, for some special purpose other than, they weren't ever really going to sell it or showcase it anywhere. Exactly. But now it's in this collection. And I'm going to forget the woman's name, but you can go and learn more about it at the Norton. It's a really good one. I mean, the exhibits, they're always excited to see. There's always something different going on there. And this was definitely a special one. So it's good mention. I like that one. Good answer. I always want to ask too, if there's any advice that you might have. So if someone's like sitting on the edge of pursuing their art or pursuing their creative passion, what advice might you give them?
Best advice I would give anyone is make it for you. And once you kind of get lost in that, you realize like, yes, the audience is important, but the audience comes last. Like make something that you truly would geek out about. Like the teenage you would be happy that you could even make it, because that's the most genuine art. That's how we get some of our best work, whether that be music, pottery, painting, sculptures. Like it's someone that's just super passionate about it, and they don't really think of anyone outside of that until that piece is done. And they're like, oh yeah, I have to present it now.
Yeah. And now when you present it with your whole self, because it was the most honest version of what you had to offer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I always say, like, someone should know where you were in that time of life, in that time of your life, just looking at the art.
That's great advice. Really, really good stuff. All right. Well, before I actually let you leave, I do have just one more question, which is, where can people connect with you? So if somebody wants to find out more about your work, you drop your website, social media, maybe, where your studio is going to be, where you're going to be next, and let people know how to connect with you.
Yes. So I'll be on Instagram as Kelvin Small _III. And my Instagram is the same thing, KelvinSmall3.com.
Okay, cool.
And I also do have a YouTube.
Oh, all right. All right.
Same name all across the board.
Nice, easy to remember.
Yeah. Like, it's so fun being the third, because I'm like, how many people?
Yeah, right. You have the benefit of always finding your username, probably.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
So, okay. And if people want to maybe come visit the studio, because this episode's going to come out in June and you'll be in the studio in August. So yes. Could they best reach out on Instagram or find you through your website? Yeah,
absolutely. Cool. Like, I have both my emails on my website, and through Instagram, I'll always answer messages. I do not have a whole lot of followers. It is easy for me to contact you.
Great. So. Well, look, I have a lot to look forward to seeing what is coming up in your photography. I'm very excited for you. I'm super excited for you to be in this studio. I know it's going to be huge for you. And I know you already know that, but like, I'm excited for you to get into that space and just bust open a whole new level.
No, thank you. Thank you so much.
But thank you for being here, for like sharing your story today. I'm just so stoked for you, and congratulations again on, being awarded that emerging artist program. It's going to do big things for you. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what's next.
No, thank you so much for having me, and thanks again to the Cultural Council for even giving me a chance.
Of course. Yeah. They're wonderful. We love them. We appreciate the audience and the listeners so much. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode. You can find Kelvin's Instagram and website in the caption below if you want to get more connected. Huge thank you, as always, to our sponsor, the Cultural Council for Palm Beach County. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time on the Arty Girl Podcast.